from the campus of Washington and Lee University with news for Rockbridge County. This is the Rockbridge Report.
Welcome to the Rockbridge Report. I'm Kinsey Grant.
And I'm Stephen Young. For the fourth time in almost a week, families of the passengers on Malaysian Air Flight 370 had their hopes crushed. Chinese officials released a statement yesterday saying their satellites had spotted what they believed to be wreckage from the plane in the South China Sea. Since then, search parties combed that area and found no sign of the plane. The Wall Street Journal reported today that MH370 could have been in the air for as long as 4 hours after it last made contact, a report Malaysian officials are calling inaccurate. Family members of the passengers attended a news conference held by Malaysian officials earlier today in Kuala Lumpur. CNN's Sammy Molson was there to gauge the mood.
Family, friends and next of kin have been flown to Kuala Lumpur by Malaysia Airlines, and there are support groups on hand to help them through this difficult time. But moments ago, an elderly man who has lost his son on flight MH370 approached the desk and the consular team here and told them, "We don't want your compensation, we want answers." I spoke to 60-year-old Salamat Umar a short while later. He's visibly agitated and exhausted.
Ya, perasaan masih sedih.
I am upset, very upset. I am really hoping they will find this plane.
His son, Gerul Amri, is just 29 years old.
My son's a normal, happy guy. He called and told me he was going to Beijing. And less than 24 hours later, it happened. The plane went missing.
I ask him how long he's prepared to wait here.
My plan is still to hope the authorities, government and Malaysia Airlines can locate the plane as soon as possible. That's our biggest hope. But I will wait until Malaysia Airlines comes out with answers.
And it's the lack of knowledge and answers that is leading to the kind of frustration we witnessed here.
This morning, they were supposed to give us the latest updates, but they were late, and that's what made me really upset.
While the world's media watches on and pushes for answers, so too do the families. Helpless, but still full of hope.
My family is hoping they will find the plane, and really hoping all on board are still alive.
Simon Morsin, CNN, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
A surprising update from the construction bid for a new Waddell Elementary School has left Lexington School Board scrambling. The board budgeted $12 million for the construction, but the minimum of 5 bids was $14.3 million. The board will meet tomorrow to discuss options, among them a redesign or shortened construction timeline. Board members must have the contract for Waddell signed and presented to the Lexington City Council before the bond pool closes April 11th. If they don't, the school board would have to wait another 6 months to get the contract approved, pushing their start time from June 1st to early 2015.
The Rockbridge County School Board closed Effinger Elementary School in 2010 after renovating the building a few years earlier. Closing Effinger earned the county more than $2 million in debt. Reporter Krista Huber found out the board has an idea that could see Effinger used in a different way.
Effinger's renovation loan required that the building be used for education until the debt is repaid in 2026. So school officials will open Effinger this summer as the district's central office, but relocating comes at an additional price. The school board set aside $100,000 in its capital improvements budget for the move.
We've got a very well constructed, energy efficient facility out there that's currently not being used, and it's just like a car. If you let it sit and don't use it, it will deteriorate.
School board member Kevin Brooks says he strongly supports the move. Brooks says that right now, the school board pays to maintain the facilities at Effinger and the old Highland Bell School, where the office is currently located. And school officials say Highland Bell is debt-free, and the county can sell the building once it's empty. We'd like to show you what Effinger looks like inside, but school officials won't let us in because they are taking inventory of what's stored in there. When that's done in early April, the board will convert the existing classrooms into offices, install a new phone and internet system, and move office supplies and furnishings from Highland Bell to Effinger. The move has its opponents. Chris Green ran unsuccessfully for the County Board of Supervisors in November.
A lot of times you're just playing long-term politics with money, and rather than focusing on hey, these are assets we have and we should be using these to our best ability.
Some residents think Effinger is too far away from most of the populations to put the central offices there.
The school board should be centrally located where county people have access to them. They're not a private, secret society where they should be out in Effinger.
Brooks acknowledged that Effinger is inconvenient, even for him. But he says Highland Bell isn't that accessible either, especially for people who live near Effinger. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Krista Huber.
Almost 3,000 adults in the Rockbridge area could be helped by a bill that would expand Medicaid coverage in the state. But the General Assembly adjourned Saturday without passing a budget that would include the change. Washington and Lee law professor Timothy Jost says up to 400,000 residents would qualify statewide. The General Assembly will reconvene on March 24th for a special session to try to approve a new spending plan. Former Buena Vista Fire Chief Butch Lawhorn is expected to plead guilty to at least some of the 77 fraud counts he is facing. Lawhorn went to court on March 7th to set a trial date. But the Buena Vista Circuit Court Clerk's Office says plea negotiations between prosecutors and Lawhorn's lawyer are likely to result in a guilty plea on April 7th. Lawhorn was indicted after being accused of forging certificates for swiftwater rescue classes for first responders that he was not certified to teach. Up next, weather anchor Marielle LaFair will tell us if the crazy weather in Lexington will keep up.
And later, the state announced
crazy winds are making it feel like it's a lot cooler.
And later, the state
Tomorrow's going to be beautiful as well, but Saturday and Sunday things are going to take a turn for the worst. Tune into our program to find out more.
The state announced Virginia farmers were seeing a boom in business. One reporter headed out to the country to see just how Rockbridge County farmers work and what kind of animals they were raising. All that and more on the Rockbridge Report.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys know statistically friendly kids have
10,
more friends?
Yeah.
9,
obvious.
8,
Did you know most
7,
people think they're using
6.
the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
Kids will spend 15 minutes watching online videos like this one.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day. They have the time.
Ever wonder what makes us, the Smurfs, so happy? The forest, of course! This is where we, along with the beautiful forest creatures, make our home with beautiful plant life, clean water, and endless adventures. It's a place to celebrate. So discover the forest with your family today. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
The General Assembly passed a series of bills aimed at improving state treatment of the mentally ill. The reforms were proposed after Senator Cree Deeds was assaulted by his mentally ill son Gus in the fall. The new bills expand the search time for a private hospital room from 6 to 12 hours. If a bed can't be found after 12 hours, public hospitals will be required to admit mentally ill patients if they are under an emergency custody order. One sign that winter is on the ropes is the Stonewall Jackson House reopening. Employees of the house in downtown Lexington are excited to welcome visitors back. Reporter Caroline Holtzman visited the General's home.
Up to 25,000 guests walk up East Washington Street every year
to see where the famed Confederate general lived while he taught at the Virginia Military Institute before the Civil War.
I found the most enjoyable thing was you got a little more in-depth information about Jackson's actual life, not so much about his military campaigns.
Jackson and his wife Anna bought the home in 1858. It wasn't until 3 years later that Jackson earned the nickname Stonewall and lasting fame. Tours of the house began again on March 1st. It closes every year during January and February, though it does reopen briefly during the Lee Jackson Day observances in mid-January.
It means we have time to do cleaning and maintenance that otherwise is very difficult to do in a historic site that's open to the public 7 days a week. And it's good for morale.
Virginia Military Institute became the owner of the house in 2011. This means it is now part of VMI's museum operations. Those include the VMI Museum on the VMI campus and the New Market Battlefield State Historical Park about 40 miles up Interstate 81. The change has boosted tourism to the Jackson House.
And that means we've had joint advertising, we have new rack cards that all have a sort of family appearance, and we're finding that promoting 3 sites gives us some synergy over promoting just one.
Lynn hopes to see more locals visit the house as well.
Local people will admit embarrassedly that they haven't been to the Jackson House, but we're always happy to have them.
For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Carolyn Holtzman.
The Stonewall Jackson House might think winter's on its way out, but Mother Nature might have something to say about that. Weather anchor Marielle LaFair is here to update us on Lexington's wacky weather. Marielle?
Kinsey, we've all been trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. Earlier this weekend, we were outside in shorts and t-shirts, and now we've had to get our winter jackets back out of the closet. Unfortunately, these crazy conditions are going to continue on through the weekend, but for now, let's take a look at current conditions. It's sunny and 30 degrees out. There are 29-mile-per-hour wind gusts, though, which is making it feel like it's in the teens. Overnight tonight, we can expect the temperature to drop into the low 20s. Now let's take a look at what's going on in neighboring cities. As you can see, temperatures are pretty consistent throughout the area, with temperatures hovering around in the low to mid-30s. Over in Covington, though, unfortunately, it's only 16 degrees. Now let's take a look at our radar. As you can see, we can expect very little precipitation in the upcoming 24 hours. And finally, for the 5-day forecast. These temperatures are all over the place. Tomorrow we can expect a high of 59 and it's going to be really sunny. Saturday, again, mostly sunny with a high of 59. Sunday, though, temperatures are going to drop into the low 40s with a 50% chance of rain. Then Monday, again, it's going to get even colder with a high of 38 and a 50% chance of rain and snow. And then on Tuesday, 50 degrees and sunny. That's all I have. I'm Marielle LaFair for the Rockbridge Report. Back to you guys.
Stephen, I cannot wait for some spring weather to come to Lexington.
I already have all my spring clothes out. Now I have to put them back. Recent government changes in flood insurance policies are creating trouble for local realtors and potential homeowners. Patrick McCarran has more.
Congress called it the Biggert Waters Flood Insurance Reform Act of 2012. It requires the National Flood Insurance Program to raise insurance rates for old properties that have been deemed Zone A's or high-risk flooding areas. Some local Zone A's are in the South River area and Buena Vista. Property owners in Zone A's used to rely on government help with their insurance payments, but since October, those subsidies have disappeared. Tony Brown is a broker for J.F. Brown Real Estate. She has seen the effect of the new law already.
It's held up sales. It's held up financing for people because they can't, and they get bad information, they get bad quotes.
Nationwide insurance agent Ward Huffman has seen the additional financial burden fall on his clients since the act took effect.
What's happened since then is the rates have gone up.
The law requires homeowners in affected areas to get an elevation certificate, a flood risk assessment of a property that determines whether it's high risk. Insurance agents cannot issue quotes without them. They usually cost about $500. Robert Forsman is Rockbridge County's emergency management coordinator. He says that coastal areas fearful of rising seas pushed for the act, but the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, pulled inland areas such as Rockbridge County into the new law as well.
So you can't really just do flood insurance for coastal areas and not address it on the inland areas also.
Both Forsman and Huffman have seen frustration and confusion from people affected by the act.
The biggest surprise I think a lot of people think is that they may be near a stream that they've never heard of flooding, but that's in a Zone A.
It's very difficult to have somebody go out who's been paying $400 a year for flood insurance now for the last 20 years, and now you're going to bump them up to $1,000 because their threat's higher, but they've not had a major flood in that 20 years.
And then, Brown says, they get the bill.
There's no consistency, and so a buyer goes in to buy a property and all of a sudden the rate goes from $500 to $30,000 a year, and they don't realize that's happening until they're getting ready to get their insurance.
Brown warns potential homebuyers to be informed.
The buyer needs to go do his homework. What's going to happen to my rates?
The National Association of Realtors says relief is on the way. A bill passed earlier this month limits the amount that FEMA can charge homebuyers for flood insurance at the time of the sale of the home. For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Patrick McCarran.
After the break for the Rockbridge Report.
A local community college hosted a job expo for county residents having trouble finding work. Among the topics discussed were networking and first impressions, as attendees were encouraged to spring into a new career.
So what you want to do is, have you already enrolled? You're doing fine.
What did that just do?
Select the drop-down menu again. Continue to site. You're already enrolled. Example here. So don't panic. You're ready to make your payments. Submit. There it is.
Oh my God! I really can't believe it.
That's awesome. Good for you.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
In the Rockbridge area, farmers are seeing growth in more places than just their fields. It's happening in their businesses as well. Happy Carlock has a story.
The nation's economic recovery is helping Rockbridge County agricultural and livestock farmers. Rockbridge Farmers Co-op sales manager Seth Caldwell has seen that growth over the past few years.
I don't see a lot of large-scale farmers. I see a lot more what I call hobby farmers, smaller scale people that have just a few head of beef cattle or have some sheep, goats, whatever, hogs, chickens.
Agriculture is Virginia's largest industry. Sarah Whipple is a visiting psychology professor at Washington and Lee University, but she is also the kind of small-scale farmer Caldwell is seeing more of. Whipple owns a hops farm in Rockbridge County.
Each year we get a bigger and bigger production out of it. Hops can last, at least 20 years, so we're hoping to get more and more poundage per year.
But dairy and cattle are the mainstays of local farming, and those too are growing. Virginia farms saw overall increases in both the market value of production and the average value of products sold per farm from 2007 to 2012. Those are preliminary conclusions of a U.S. Department of Agriculture study. Charlie Leach owns Ingleside Dairy Farm in Rockbridge County. Since Leach took over the family farm in 1978, Ingleside has gone from milking 100 cows to about 350.
Everybody wonders why farms are getting bigger and bigger. They get bigger and bigger. So what people do is they keep growing the business. I don't care whether it's dairy, beef, or grain. They just They just looked at ways of growing their business anywhere from 3 to 5% every year.
Ingleside is one of 7 dairy farms in the Rockbridge area. Leach says dairy production has increased over the past few years, but on fewer farms.
Everybody here works anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. That's just the way. Dairy farming is the way of life, so either you like it or you had better find another occupation.
Leach says there is a misconception about large-scale farming.
You turn CNN, they talk with some factory farm. Well, heck, I will know the farm, and it's a family farm that was a granddaddy and 2 sons, and each one of them have got a son or daughter, and they're involved in the farm too. So really, it's more disconnect from the family farm than it originally was.
Leach and his family have made their business more efficient recently by using cow milking robots. The robots identify cows with a transponder and record their steps, food intake, and how many times they are milked each day. Ingleside is the only dairy farm in Virginia to do that.
It's increased in milk production because it adapts. You can adapt the 3-time-a-day milking technique. See, a cow that gives more milk actually gets milked more.
Jeannie Wilson runs Crimp Haven Alpacas, an alpaca farm in Rockbridge County. She is retired, so breeding and selling alpacas and their fiber is her secondary source of income. She says Crimp Haven is still operating with a loss, but it gets smaller each year.
Sort of like when you're in real estate, you don't get a check every week, but when you get a check, it's a decent one.
For the Rockbridge Report, I'm Happy Carlock.
The General Assembly passed a new law allowing hunting on Sundays. Lawmakers argue the old law that considered Sundays to be a day of rest for wild birds and animals was outdated and hurting the state's economy. Hunters will now be allowed to hunt on private property during designated seasons as long as hunters remain 200 yards away from places of worship.
Employment numbers for the county are getting better, but some are still looking for work. Dabney S. Lancaster Community College hosted a job expo earlier this week to help those struggling to find work. Reporter Logan Hendricks was in attendance.
More than 80 job seekers showed up at the college's Career Expo in Buena Vista on Tuesday and in Clifton Forge on Wednesday.
I'm a displaced worker. I lost my job in 13 years, and this town is very hard to find a job in, so it's just trying to find something to help support my family a little more. There's a few jobs down here that are pretty interesting and something that I would look forward to doing.
Jacqueline Anello represents healthcare provider American Plus, one of 20 employers at the job fair. She says face-to-face conversations are key to seeing if someone is right for a position.
You have to be able to present yourself well, especially in this business, because you are providing such an intimate service to people.
Donnie Kern, the college's job placement coordinator, helped organize the event.
Career fair, we're trying to get job seekers and employers together. They can see each other face to face, hand them their resume, they can quickly look at it and see if they're a good candidate for a position they might have.
Dorothy Ouellette just moved to the area from Maine.
Been here for just a little bit, so I'm looking for a job. But I have talked to 3 places that I am very interested in, and I've gotten a lot of good information.
Kern says a good resume is essential for job seekers at career expos.
Make sure you're well dressed and you have a really good dynamic resume that stands out from anyone else. First impression's everything, so if you got a good smile, I think you're in luck.
For the Rockbridge Report, this is Logan Hendricks.
Don't touch that remote. After the break, sports anchor Alexandra Seymour will update you on how the county's colleges fared in baseball and lacrosse. Stay with us.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Good.
Now the big guy comes off the bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Can you test Alexandra's mic again? She repositioned it.
10,
7,000 high school students
8,
drop out
7,
every school day.
6, 5, 4,
That's a line of
3,
desks
2,
more than 4
1.
miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Rain and wind forced some of Rockbridge's teams off the field this weekend, but there's plenty of action to come. Sports anchor Alexandra Seymour will tell you all you need to know about a packed weekend for sports.
Thanks, Kinsey. Basketball in the county has come to a close after VMI's men's team lost over the weekend to Coastal Carolina in the semifinal of the Big South tournament. The county's colleges are still playing, though. They've just moved from hardwood to infield grass. VMI played baseball yesterday against Old Dominion despite the gusting winds. Norfolk wasn't kind to the Keydets as they were crushed by the Monarchs 15-5. ODU got 15 hits off of 8 different VMI pitchers on their way to a big win. The loss puts VMI at 9-7 overall, with the Monarchs advancing to 11-6. The Keydets' next game is slated for tomorrow at home against Radford. The Highlanders are coming off a tough loss to William & Mary, snapping a 5-game winning streak where their average margin of victory was around 5 runs. That contest will be the first in a 3-game stand against the Highlanders. The Keydets will look to bounce back after a rough pitching performance against Old Dominion. First pitch for the Keydets and the Highlanders is set for tomorrow afternoon at 4. W&L wasn't quite as lucky yesterday. The Generals baseball team was scheduled to face Stevenson, but heavy winds and the threat of rain caused that contest to be canceled. The 9-4 Generals are back in action with another doubleheader this Saturday. The Blue and White will play host to conference rival Guilford. Last time the Generals hosted a doubleheader, they were swept by Randolph-Macon. Guilford is 8-9 on the year, but are in the middle of a 3-game slump. The Generals look to build off their win earlier this week against Stevenson. First game of the doubleheader starts at noon Saturday, with the second game at 3. SVU is looking at a doubleheader this Saturday as well. The Knights lost yesterday against Christopher Newport, giving them a 1-9 record on the season. SVU will face Penn State Harrisburg twice on Saturday. The Lions are 2-7 to start the year, including giving up 16 runs in their last 2 games. SVU will look to end a 3-game losing streak and has them giving up 10 runs a game. Harrisburg will have to shake off some rust after having 3 of its previous games postponed due to weather. SVU is hoping to add a couple of notches to their win column with the doubleheader. First game starts Saturday afternoon at 1, with the second game scheduled for 3. The county's women were in action as well, but in a different kind of sport. Washington and Lee's women's lacrosse team lost over the weekend at number 1 ranked Salisbury. The loss came by 2 goals, but the Generals' ranking didn't suffer. The Blue and White rose from 19 to 14. The Generals are back home this Saturday to host conference rival Lynchburg. W&L has taken a 2-game dip after a 4-0 start, giving up double-digit goals in both games. Lynchburg is riding a hot streak, winning their last 2 contests by an average margin of 19 points. The Generals' defense, anchored by seniors Olive Waxter and Leanne Stone, will look to rebound this Saturday at 1 o'clock on Wilson Field. SVU's women's lacrosse team is off to a shaky start at 1-2 overall, but a Saturday home game might be just what the doctor ordered. The Knights are set to play Mary Washington this Saturday at noon. Mary Washington is off to a 3-1 start, scoring over 13 goals in each of their 3 wins. The Knights gave up 14 their last time out against Randolph, but Mary Washington will be coming off of a game against Bridgewater tomorrow. SVU will look to right the ship against the Eagles Saturday at noon. That's all for sports. From the Rockbridge Report, I'm Alexandra Seymour. Back to you, Kinsey.
Thanks, Alexandra. Hopefully SVU's teams can turn around with a few home games this weekend. That's all we have for this week's edition of the Rockbridge Report. I'm Kinsey Grant.
And I'm Stephen Young. Don't forget to check us out on the web at www.rockbridgereport.washingtonandlee.net. Good night. Good job.